Modern civilization doesn't run on oil. It doesn't run on gold. It runs on a thread of silicon just a few nanometers thick. If the factories that produce this thread stopped for a single month, the global economy would lose $4 trillion, a financial collapse bigger than anything caused by any war in modern history. We call it the silicon shield. And right now, your phone, America's guided missiles, and every major AI data center on the planet all depend on the exact same island. For almost 40 years, one company has quietly held a monopoly no government could ever legally allow. But the rules of physics are starting to bend. Intel and Samsung are launching historic offensives to take back the crown. China is racing toward technology the West called impossible to build under sanctions. So the real question is simple. Is this century-defining monopoly finally about to break? Semiconductors aren't just electronic parts anymore. They're the silicon muscles and the brain of modern civilization. Without them, electric vehicles can't manage their own power, smartphones become inert bricks, and artificial intelligence can't process the trillions of data points it now handles every second. But the stakes go far beyond convenience. These chips guide missiles. They run the servers behind every major AI model on Earth. They decide which nations can build modern militaries and which nations get left behind. A country that can't manufacture advanced chips can't build advanced weapons, advanced hospitals, or advanced economies. Full stop. That's why, in the 21st century, semiconductors have quietly become the single most strategic resource on the planet. More contested than oil, more valuable than gold, and controlled by a supply chain so narrow that a handful of factories, on a handful of islands, hold leverage over the entire global economy. This isn't a story about electronics. It's a story about who controls the future. To understand how we got here, go back to 1987 on the island of Taiwan. An engineer named Morris Chang did something no one else in the industry was doing. Instead of designing chips and building them in-house like everyone else, his new company, TSMC, would build chips designed by other people, and only that. It was called the pure play foundry model, and at the time, it looked almost humble. In its earliest years, TSMC was desperate for orders from giants like Intel just to survive. Nobody imagined this quiet manufacturing partner would ever be more important than the companies it served. Fast forward to today, and the roles have completely flipped. Intel, the same company TSMC once begged for business, now finds itself trying to catch up to, or even collaborate with, the company it used to overshadow. One decision made in a small office in 1987 rewired the entire balance of global technological power. Today, Taiwan sits at the center of a technological Cold War between two superpowers. The United States, alarmed by how much of its economy and military depend on a single island 90 miles from China, has launched a return-home strategy, pouring billions into Intel and pressuring TSMC to build massive new factories in Arizona to secure its supply chain for both civilian and military use. On the other side, China faces a wall it cannot simply buy its way through. Unable to purchase the world's most advanced chip-making machinery due to export bans, China now spends $420 billion a year just importing chips, more than it spends importing oil. At the same time, it's racing to build its own cutting-edge technology from scratch, betting billions that it can eventually route around the restrictions entirely. Caught in the middle of all this is Taiwan itself, a small island whose economic survival and physical security are now permanently entangled with the ambitions of the world's two largest powers. Every geopolitical tremor, a trade restriction, a military exercise, a diplomatic visit, sends ripples through global stock markets, because everyone knows exactly what's really at stake here. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The entire modern world runs on a dangerously narrow supply chain. Right now, Taiwan alone manufactures 92% of the world's most advanced chips, the 3 to 5 nanometer processors inside your phone, your car, and every serious AI system on Earth. 92%. From one island. That means a natural disaster, a blockade, or a conflict in that single location could freeze the global economy almost overnight. But there's a second, quieter crisis building underneath this one: resources. Manufacturing these chips requires staggering amounts of electricity and ultra-pure water. TSMC alone already consumes 8 to 9% of all of Taiwan's electricity, and that number is projected to climb to 24% by 2030. An industry built to run the world's technology is now competing with that same world for the basic resources to keep the lights on. So how do you actually turn sand into the most powerful object humanity has ever mass-produced? It happens in 5 stages, each one more precise than the last. First, design. Companies like Apple and Nvidia create the logical blueprint, the architecture that decides what the chip will actually do. Second, wafer fabrication. Engineers grow disks of ultra-pure silicon, refined to a purity level almost impossible to find anywhere else on Earth. Third, and this is where things get almost unbelievable, extreme ultraviolet lithography. Machines fire ultraviolet light to print circuits onto that silicon wafer at a scale thousands of times thinner than a single human hair. Fourth, etching and layering. Materials are added and stripped away with atomic precision, building up to 20 separate layers of circuitry, stacked on top of each other like an impossibly small skyscraper. Fifth, testing and packaging. Every chip is tested for defects, then assembled, sometimes stacked 3-dimensionally, into the final product that eventually ends up soldered into your phone, your car, or a server rack powering an AI model. 5 steps. But inside those 5 steps is arguably the most complex manufacturing process the human species has ever industrialized at scale, repeated, successfully, billions of times a year, with defect rates so low they sound like a typo. Here's a number that puts it all in perspective. The clean rooms where these chips are built are about 1 million times purer than a hospital operating room. One single speck of dust, invisible to the human eye, can permanently ruin a batch of chips worth millions of dollars. Workers shower in special air chambers, wear full body suits, and move in slow, deliberate motions. In this industry, dust isn't just dirt. It's a multi-million-dollar catastrophe waiting to happen. Of all 5 manufacturing steps, one of them is so difficult that only a single company on Earth has ever managed to master it: extreme ultraviolet lithography, or EUV. The machines that perform this step are built by exactly one company, ASML, based in the Netherlands. Each machine costs between $200 and $350 million. Not the factory, not the production line. One single machine. These machines are so complex that assembling one requires hundreds of thousands of individual parts, shipped in dozens of cargo containers, and reassembled on-site by a small army of specialized engineers over several months. Without this exact technology, it's essentially impossible to manufacture chips below 7 nanometers at any meaningful scale. And this is precisely why the United States moved to block China's access to these machines entirely. It's not a metaphorical choke point, it's a literal one. A handful of machines, built by one company, in one country, allied with the West, currently determine which nations on Earth are even physically capable of manufacturing next-generation semiconductors. Whoever controls access to this machine controls the ceiling of what any country's technology industry can achieve. That's not an exaggeration. It's the entire logic behind years of international sanctions, trade wars, and multi-billion-dollar bets on national chip independence. This entire ecosystem is really a small handful of players, each holding one irreplaceable piece of the puzzle. TSMC, in Taiwan, is the undisputed leader in advanced manufacturing, the factory the rest of this list depends on. Nvidia and Apple, both American, are TSMC's biggest designers and customers, converting silicon into the graphics processors and smartphone chips that power the AI boom and your pocket. Samsung, in South Korea, leads in memory chips and sits as the world's second-largest foundry, chasing TSMC's advanced manufacturing lead. Intel, also American, is the fallen giant trying to claw its way back with a new manufacturing process it's betting its future on. ASML, in the Netherlands, is the monopoly supplier of the one machine that makes all of this physically possible. And a quieter name worth watching, Fabrinet, in Thailand, becoming a key player in the emerging era of silicon photonics, using light instead of electricity to move data. 5 countries, a handful of companies, and between them, they hold more leverage over global technology than most governments on Earth. TSMC now mass-produces chips at 2 nanometers. To put that in perspective, that's the width of about 20 atoms lined up side by side. For comparison, a strand of human DNA is about 2.5 nanometers wide. We are now manufacturing objects at industrial scale, in the billions, that are physically smaller than the building blocks of human genetics. And somehow, we do it with defect rates low enough to sell to consumers worldwide. For decades, progress in this industry was measured almost entirely in nanometers, the size of each transistor. Smaller meant faster, more efficient, more powerful. But we're approaching a wall where transistors simply can't get much smaller without breaking the laws of physics themselves. So the industry is being forced to reinvent how chips are built entirely. One emerging solution is silicon photonics, replacing electrical signals with beams of light to move data between chips, dramatically cutting energy loss and heat. Another is moving power delivery to the back of the chip instead of the front, freeing up space on the front for more computing logic and reducing the heat generated in the process. None of this is optional anymore. Artificial intelligence is demanding computing power at a pace no one predicted even 5 years ago, and the old playbook, just shrink the transistor again, is running out of road. The next era of computing won't be won by whoever makes the smallest transistor. It'll be won by whoever reinvents the entire architecture first. Heat is enemy number one. As engineers stack chip components vertically to keep improving performance, all of that processing power gets concentrated into an impossibly tiny volume, and heat has nowhere to escape. In a data center, you can add liquid cooling, but in a smartphone sitting in your pocket, there's no room for a cooling system at all. Push performance too far, and the chip simply degrades or fails outright. Layered on top of this is a second, quieter problem. Moore's Law, the decades-old rule that computing power doubles roughly every 2 years, is running out of steam. Doubling density used to make chips cheaper. Now, doubling density makes them explosively more expensive to manufacture. The old rules that guided this industry for 50 years are starting to break down at the exact moment the world needs more computing power than ever. To fight the heat problem, researchers are now experimenting with industrial diamond substrates. Yes, actual diamond, which conduct heat away from a chip roughly 10 times better than aluminum. It sounds almost absurd, one of the rarest materials on Earth being repurposed as a humble heat sink. But at this scale of engineering, absurd and necessary are often the same thing. To fight the cost problem, the industry is shifting toward something called logic folding, essentially building upward instead of outward. Instead of cramming more transistors across a flat, horizontal surface, engineers are stacking them vertically, letting information travel microscopic distances straight up through layers instead of struggling across a flat plane. It's a fundamental shift in how chips are architected, from a flat city of transistors to a dense, vertical skyscraper. And it might be the only path forward now that shrinking transistors any further has essentially hit a physical dead end. These chips aren't abstract, they're already running your life. They're inside Tesla's self-driving systems, making split-second decisions about the road ahead. They're inside the robots now operating in massive logistics warehouses, sorting and moving products faster than any human team could. They're the reason ChatGPT and every other major AI model can process language in real time. Without these specific chips, none of the AI tools reshaping entire industries right now would exist at their current scale. In medicine, this same silicon is processing genomic data, helping researchers map diseases and design treatments faster than ever before. In the military, it's the backbone of high-precision guidance systems used in modern weapons. Your phone, your car, your hospital, your military, your favorite AI chatbot. All of it, quietly, traces back to the exact same tiny sliver of silicon and the exact same handful of factories capable of producing it. One single rack of next-generation AI servers can consume roughly the same amount of electricity as 750 American homes. Not one server. One rack. Multiply that across an entire data center, and then across every major tech company racing to build the biggest AI models on Earth, and you start to understand why chip factories and power grids have suddenly become the same conversation. The future of this industry is vertical, optical, and increasingly designed by the very technology it produces. OpenAI is now designing its own custom chips, reportedly codenamed Jalapeno, using AI itself to accelerate chip design, compressing a process that used to take years down to months. That's not a small detail. It means artificial intelligence is now being used to design the next generation of the hardware that will run artificial intelligence, a closed loop that could dramatically accelerate the entire pace of this industry. Going forward, the real competition won't just be about who can shrink a transistor. It'll be about who can master three-dimensional chip stacking and who can successfully make the leap from electrical signals to optical ones. The companies and countries that solve those two problems first won't just lead the semiconductor industry. They'll likely lead the next era of the global economy. Semiconductors stopped being a simple electronic component a long time ago. Today, they are the strategic infrastructure of human thought itself and of national defense. Every AI model that reasons, every missile that guides itself, every hospital that processes a genome, all of it is downstream of a manufacturing process so precise it operates at the scale of individual atoms. Whoever controls these few nanometers of silicon effectively controls the speed at which our entire species evolves through the century. Not metaphorically, literally. And right now, that control rests in the hands of a small number of factories, a handful of machines, and one very small, very strategically vital island. If this kind of deep, behind-the-scenes look into the technology running our world blows your mind, hit subscribe, because Chat Make It Mass breaks down exactly how the biggest, most powerful industrial processes on Earth actually work, one hidden system at a time. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next one.